Hi everyone, and welcome to the Propcast. My name is Louisa Dickens, co-founder of Ella Mulry and board director of the UKPA, and I shall be your weekly host. Each week for 30 minutes, we'll be connecting the VCs, prop tech startups, and real estate professionals globally, and assist in bridging that famous communication gap we all love talking about. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Propcast. Today's topic will be on the changing face of workplace experience with the modern day worker. And who better to talk about it than Clinton Robinson, co-founder of Lane, who has joined us all the way from Canada. So welcome, Clint.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Louise. I'm very excited to be here today.
Awesome. Well, for those who don't know Clint yet or heard of Lane, Clint, who is the founder of Lane, has more than a decade of experience creating tangible technology products for complex ideas. He created his first successful company aged 15, and since then he has continued to use technology as a way to create solutions to the most complicated problems in the media, retail, healthcare industries, and now obviously real estate. For those who are not so familiar with Lane, Lane was founded in 2014 to transform the workplace from the inside out. Now trusted by Fortune 500 companies to power over 300 million square foot of office globally, which I'm sure it's probably a lot more by now. The largest of any workplace experience platform in the world. Lane really turns any workplace into a place that actually works, which is what we all sort of need now. And I guess, Clint, I would love to hear a little bit more from you, a little bit more, what is Lane? What is the product? Why did you start it? You've come from outside of real estate, which is brilliant and refreshing, exactly what we need. But please tell me a little bit more about Lane from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I do come from outside of commercial real estate. So I'm actually a technologist who has been doing, like, last 2 decades, I've been a technologist working on, as you said, it's with all these Fortune 500 companies building these tech products. I've got a master's in AI. I'm actually trained in computer science. So I've been working with technology forever, and then kind of moved into commercial real estate with Lane. So that's been an interesting transition for sure. Lane's a workplace experience platform, and we provide a platform for each one of the stakeholders that exist in commercial real estate to provide their services, their amenities, to modernize, to enable things with technology, all focused on giving the end user, the employee, a better experience through their day. And that's really important. I think it's all about the end user. It's all about how does the employee interact with all the things that exist in your workplace. And when we say the ecosystem, what we mean is, in the modern workplace, there's so many stakeholders that have to come together to provide you with what you need throughout your day. So I'm in an office building right now that's owned by one company, property managed by another. There's security teams in here. There's maintenance teams. There's delivery companies. There's software for access control. There's a bike locker downstairs. There's a parking program run by somebody else. And then there's the companies themselves and the company's employees. And it's like, wow, this is a big ecosystem. And if you look at the office building beside us, it's the same ecosystem, but each one of those things I just mentioned may actually be run by a different stakeholder. And it kind of like compounds this interesting problem of the workplace is a very complex place. And if you look at like the end user experience that we're trying to deliver, the employee who goes to work, like, I don't know if it really matters to you who runs the parking program at your office space, or who runs the room booking system, or how your food gets delivered, or how that thing got fixed that you needed to get fixed. You, as an employee, as somebody who comes to work every day, you just want it to be easily discoverable. You want to be able to interact with it easily, and you just want it to be done so you can do your job. And what we're seeing is the ecosystem's so complex that is not an easy user experience right now. And that is why Lane was created, as this encompassing ecosystem to bring all these things together into one platform that's really easy to use, provide a beautiful user experience to the end user, to the employee. And if we do that right, we're going to provide a ton of value to every stakeholder along that chain.
God, you make it sound so simple and easy. And I guess so. How did you initially start? It was you were part of the Texas Accelerator program. Like, how did you find out about that? And I mean, guess coming from someone who is in commercial real estate, was that just just luck, or how did that begin?
Well, very familiar with like the tech accelerators. So, there's like Y Combinator, there's Techstars, there's a bunch of different tech accelerators. What was interesting about Techstars is they had a commercial real estate accelerator. And, that was back in 2018 when prop tech was still kind of just getting started. And it was one of the first ones out there. It was really exciting. So we thought, what if we go through this accelerator? We know technology really well. I've always been doing that, but can we get a bit more of a crash course and exposure to a whole lot of commercial real estate all at once by going through an accelerator it's kind of half technology, half here's the world of commercial real estate.
Nice. And I guess how was that whole sort of process? Was it a steep learning curve? I mean, lots of people say you could just pick up. I mean, it's quite a big crash course you did, but lots of people say you can pick up the real estate. It's just about like combining the two, technology and real estate, together and merging them, which is the tough part.
Can you pick up the real estate? That's interesting. I don't know if that's true. That makes it sound way too easy. Like it's like real estate trying to pick up technology.
Yeah.
They haven't done that very well, and technology hasn't picked up real estate very well. No, like you need that immersive crash course of both to merge both of them. And the reality of this entire ecosystem too is like we can, as technologists, we can complain about how real estate works as a business, and real estate can complain about how technology works as a business. But if we need to like work together, we've got to like come to some sort of middle ground. And I don't think technologists can just easily pick up real estate. You can't just come into an industry and be like, I disagree with everything. This is how it should be done. It's not going to work. We've got to learn how to like work together and take the best parts of real estate and the best parts of tech companies and put those together. And that's how we're going to win.
Yeah, true. That might be actually quite a good topic for my next podcast. I guess delving back into your product a little bit more. Now, there's lots of variables that sort of come into it. Now, is there some people that are listening might ask, what's the differentiator between, I guess, what a 10 engagement platform will do and then what your platform will do? You mentioned how you get include the whole sort of ecosystem. So how does 10 engagement fit into it as well? And what's the differentiating factor?
Yeah, absolutely. So the workplace ecosystem is much larger than just tenant engagement. Tenant engagement is a slice of that bigger picture. And if you focus just on that slice, you're not going to deliver and value to the end user. And that's the fundamental problem with it. It's not encompassing enough. Like ultimately, if the end user, if the employee doesn't use this platform, we haven't solved any problems for anybody. And what I mean is, if you don't get adoption from the employee, from the person that you're, trying to solve this problem for, you're not going to get data and analytics. You're not going to bring things onto a platform and make it easy to use. You're not going to modernize your old workflows because nobody's using it. So we ultimately need to be an employee, like end user focused. And to do that, it's beyond tenant engagement. Tenant engagement is really important. That's an important part. And the Lane platform does that really well. That's an important piece of this bigger puzzle. But if you just focus on that, you haven't solved the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is a lot more complex and it requires a lot more work, but that's what we're focused on. How do we bring in property management, the owners? How do we bring in the different teams in the building? How do we bring in retail? How do we bring in the parking systems and the delivery companies? How do we get the companies on board and get the companies to get their employees on board? And once we've done that, that's the full ecosystem. And that's when things actually get super easy to use for you, the employee. That's when everything's connected and seamless. And you've got that kind of beautiful experience through the day where whether it's booking your monthly parking pass to getting a guest registered to booking a room within your own office to having food delivered, there's that seamless experience for you. And that's what we've got to achieve. Otherwise, we're just missing the mark.
Yeah. And if obviously you sort of started this in Canada, where did you sort of go next? And have you seen uptake in your product, I guess, in certain certain places, whether it's certain cities? Are you seeing more, I guess, other hubs of adoption, or yeah, well, what are the sort of future plans?
Yeah, we did start in Canada back in 2014, and then we expanded through the US. I'd say probably 80% of our business, our current live business is in the US at this point. And it really did start with major urban centers. So we started with like a Toronto going to like New York to LA to Houston to Dallas to San Francisco. And what I think is interesting about COVID, and we'll probably talk about that later, but
Mm.
I think we're now starting to see a shift of a lot of interest to the suburban workplaces because before COVID, it was like, well, everybody was working in skyscrapers downtown and they were probably more likely to adopt technology and like growing really rapidly in those kind of centers, especially across the US. And then actually this year we started to expand globally too. So just launched in Australia and Dubai, expanding to Germany, UK, Brazil. There's definitely a global need for a product like this, and we're kind of expanding as fast as we possibly can.
I guess we can now, you sort of lined up sort of very well. You know, everyone talks about the new norm, the new modern day worker. You know, what does that person look like? There's so much data analysis going into it. You know, what was the sort of, how has it affected your sort of product? Like, how have you changed it pre and post COVID? You know, I'm sure it's changed due to new expectations and needs of workers, and I guess what even the property managers and everyone who's part of your product sort of wants and needs to deliver.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think so. From a technology perspective, we really haven't changed anything for COVID, and we put a lot of emphasis in building a really configurable technology platform that solves all these different kinds of use cases that you could probably think of. And that's also a huge like differentiator between us and our competitors. Like, we put more thought into the engine that makes all this stuff work than specific like use cases. And what I mean by that is like rather than just build a guest registration module, we built all the things so that you can build a guest registration module and make it work any way you want. And that's really something the industry really, really needed. And nobody does room booking the same. Nobody does visitor management the same. Nobody does their parking pass the same. You really need this very configurable thing that allows you to really solve any kind of use case. And that also comes out of working with commercial real estate because the ecosystem just changed like dramatically. Like one building, parking's managed by the building. Next building over, it's managed by a third party. Next building over, it's like managed by a third party and you don't even have access to it. It's like, oh, wow, like there's a lot of complexity that we need to put into our technology stack to make all this stuff work. And so when COVID came around, we didn't really have to build any new technology. Our technology already covered a lot of the use cases that we wanted for COVID. Like one example is, okay, we can only let 10% of the building back. And we also have to, per company, each company is allowed to have 10% of their employees back. And we need to like stagger them so they don't all show up at the elevator lobby at the same time. So we got to let them in at like 7 or 8 or 9, in the morning. And you got to book your slot. And when you come in, you've got to like scan your QR code so security knows that you're supposed to be here. That was all possible with our platform. We didn't actually have to build anything new. Our platform already did that. But our marketing and business has changed 100%. So like from a business perspective, we've changed how we've positioned a lot of things. Absolutely. And it really is about how do we, the top of mind right now for all of our commercial real estate is how do we get people back in a safe and healthy way? And a lot of that is powered by, like let's get people to sign waivers as they check in. Let's manage flow through the building. So in terms of how it's changed our business approach, it's really just how we explain different things you can do with our platform. Long term, what we're seeing is a huge amount of demand, like increased across the board as every commercial real estate company who hasn't rolled out something like this is realizing that they are really behind the curve now. And if they want anybody to return to work in their office building, they're going to have something like this installed for when people get back.
Yeah.
Bare minimum as a communications platform, like absolute bare minimum. You got to update people now instantly when things happen. Yeah. So Larger trends, I think more flex work. And we don't mean co-working when we say flex space. It's more like people are going to configure their offices to be more flex-ish, where you like book a slot to come in. We have to space out people more for the next year at least. So that's going to be a main driver. And I think people will, I don't think companies are going to renew their giant, like monolithic offices. I think they're going to set up more satellite office. And we're going to see a rise of suburban offices again, where maybe 2 days a week you drive into the urban center and come to the big office. One day you're working from home, 2 days you're going into the suburban satellite office. That is what and that's not our guess. That's what all of our clients are asking us if we can help them power that kind of solution.
Well, a hell of a lot is going to change then, I think.
Yeah.
And I guess, so it sounds like your product is fairly dynamic and there's obviously lots of parts to it. Now, would Lane look to partner with any other technologies when you're sort of implementing it in a building, or was it a fairly sort of all-inclusive product that you wouldn't think to do that?
No, we love partnerships, and we want to work with the people who are best in their class at doing what they do. And if you look at, access control, there's 3 or 4 companies that do it really well. And that also involves hardware, a lot of hardware installed in the building. There may be incumbents, or, buildings may not want to go and switch out their hardware. And access control systems are complex enough that, that's like a whole other company to go solve that problem. We want to work with the best ones and bring them into our platform. Or parking, there's so many different parking providers and different parking systems out there. We want to work with like a great company like Arrive, who's made that whole thing simple for everybody. And they've really solved the parking problem so well that we should just work with them because they do it the best.
Yeah.
We're really happy to work with those. Where we're less likely to do like integrations is like the key word in the industry right now for tenant engagement or workplace solutions. And what we're finding is there's this whole class of software systems that we don't want to integrate with because there's no need now. Like we displace a lot of legacy software, or we can take your, those 10 software systems you use and bring it down to 2, meaning like, let's use Lane for room booking. Let's use it for guest registration. Let's use it for the booking system downstairs. So we actually see that we displace a whole bunch of kind of single use products.
Yeah.
And there's not always a need to integrate with those. It makes more sense to bring it into Lane and power it natively through the platform.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's great for business for you, but in season 1, I was interviewing the chairs of Real Estate Tech Association, these from the biggest, investment funds, like globally. And they were all saying like, there's some awesome products out there, but I want more of an all-inclusive one. I don't have to like trial or pilot a million different sort of technologies that do one thing for my building. I would much rather go to one, trust them to sort everything out and connect the dots, because otherwise it gets really complicated, really expensive. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a terrible end user experience. Like,
yeah.
Like if you take a building that has like a conference room that's managed by the building, and then you're in your office run by your company, and you have like a room in the office that you can book, you're going to need like 5 logins to software to just book a room. Like that just seems crazy. Like if you want to invite me into that conference room run by the building, you've got to like go figure out how to do that. And then you want to invite me as a guest. It's like, okay, how do I add you to the guest register? It's like that's too complicated. That's not, your job isn't to go figure out that whole thing. You just wanted to have a meeting and invite some people.
Yeah. And
that's causing problems for everybody. So like the building isn't generating any revenue from that conference room because it's just too hard to use. Or nobody even knows it's there is another problem. The fact that like none of this stuff is easily discoverable or easy to use. It is a little bizarre in like 2020 that I can't just renew my monthly parking pass at the place I work through my phone.
Yeah. I'm always totally astonished, and like, obviously I haven't been into WeWork for a while. Like I've had so many meetings there, and so often like all of them, no one knows what meeting rooms are being used, lots of vacant, and you always walk into one which might have been booked. And like, just, I don't know, there must be a more efficient way of doing this. So this is obviously through Lane. And I guess anyone who's got a really good access control system business who's listening to this, to pitch to Clint, because that's what he's sort of looking for. I guess on a completely sort of separate note, obviously you're a technologist by trade, by background, since you were age 15, which is insane. What was it sort of like coming in to, I guess, this real estate world, and I guess first getting your business, off the ground? Is there anything that sort of like surprised you, or yeah?
I mean, tons, like coming into the industry and not knowing, not being from this industry, there's so much to learn. It's even to like how these entities are structured. And you look at this large property company and it looks like they own all their assets, and that we have 80 buildings worldwide, but they don't. They actually have a collection of ownerships, and it's like this complex ownership structure where each building is owned by somebody else, and like they call them their investors or their like, okay, that I had no idea. Like once you start to peer back, it's like, wow, this is a very complex like world of real estate where things are not so straightforward. So I think being able to like navigate that universe and understand who do we actually go pitch to get this product installed, like who's the decision maker, and that coming into it in like 2014, it's like we had no idea how to do that. We just assumed that we could like go into a building or like talk to the the CEO and like, hey, this is a great idea. It doesn't really work like that. So I think understanding how the entire industry is like structured is so important, and also not realizing how much of a relationship driven industry it is. All business is relationships, but in commercial real estate, it's like to the next level. It is all relationships. It's really, it's who who can connect you, who can vouch for you. That took a while to learn, but I think we've done a great job at like navigating that. And, once somebody can vouch for you, like, we're working with like Brookfield at a pretty massive scale, having them as a client, and especially early on, that's like an amazing relationship to have. And it's kind of like, people look at that and they're like, oh, well, Brookfield's using them, like this is
exactly. That's a pretty good case study to go by. The episode before our one, I was interviewing Mike from DealPath and Fitz from Blackstone. And I just sort of said to Mike, I was like, I mean, having Blackstone as a client and a strategic investor, that's not bad. That must have made your life quite easy. And he's like, yeah, but you got to get that initial first client on. But when you do, like what you said, what you have with Brookfield, it really sort of carries. And you're now a global business, which is insane, like since 2014. And a lot's changed with COVID and stuff now, but it's great to see you have these sort of clients, and hopefully that will sort of continue. And everyone will know about Lane after this podcast. But I guess sort of outside of being a technologist, okay, outside of real estate, outside of all of that, what is there any other career path which, you would love to like pursue? Any sort of like personal sort of goals that you have?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's such a hard question to answer when you're in a startup, like a tech startup, because this is like 150% of my time. As I build this thing out, and like we've done an amazing job, but we've got such a long way to go from here. But I think long term, like getting into solving some of the bigger problems that are facing us, getting into alternative energy next is probably going to be my next project. That's probably pretty far down the road because Lane's got at least another decade of some serious work to get done until we've really cracked this workplace experience problem. But yeah, I think in the future, focusing on energy, we've got a bit of a carbon problem in the atmosphere that we've got to go solve. We need some really intelligent people working on this stuff. So that'd probably be my next thing. And then, beyond that, it's really focus, this is a trend with COVID too. It's like rediscovering the countryside and realizing that like, this is a pretty good life. Being downtown felt great because it was so busy. I was never home. I was always like traveling or doing stuff. It was like, go, go, go. Never really had time to like really look at my apartment and realize how small it is and how there's no like green space. So probably in the future, moving out to the countryside again.
Yeah. I guess you must be sort of enjoying the summers. I mean, the brutally cold winters in Canada, how much traveling can you do then? It's meant to be absolutely freezing.
It is absolutely freezing. That's actually another problem with being downtown in the winter. There is nothing fun to do in the winter downtown. But again, when you go up north, there's there's ice fishing, there's ice climbing, there's snowshoeing. It's like so fun in winter when you're not in a city. Like downhill skiing, like all those things are so much fun. But yeah, being in a city in the winter, it's not good. So the summer's been awesome. Canadian summers are just so good. Also, because it's so cold in the winter, we're all waiting for this moment. So when it finally does happen, everybody's just so happy. Like the parks are full of people just relaxing. People just like on docks at lakes, just having a beer. Like summer's been fantastic here.
Well, I was sort of longing to sort of get out there and try and explore a bit more of the Canadian prop tech scene. So that's sort of when we start, I guess, traveling again. That's next on my hit list. I want to try maple syrup, which is famous. Isn't there also like a famous food called poutine or something? It's like poutine. Yeah, I've heard lots about it. And I sort of feel like that's what you eat during during winter when you're all sort of covered up.
Yeah, it's just drinking maple syrup, eating poutine,
living the dream.
People forget sometimes that there's this whole part of Canada that's French. Quebec is there. It is very French. And poutine is a very French dish.
A very unhealthy French dish.
Very unhealthy.
I feel that we're unfortunately coming to the end of the show, but I guess before we go, Clint, please tell the audience how they can connect with you and hear a little bit more about Lane as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got any questions about workplace experience, if you're commercial real estate or even companies looking to launch a platform like Lane, please do reach out. Or if you're an interesting partner, like you were saying, like access control companies, always happy to talk about interesting integrations into the platform. Or if you're a prop tech startup and you just want to ask some questions about raising money or how to build a team or how to scale or how to sell to commercial real estate, always happy to give back to the community. Or even ask about like Techstars and what that experience was like. Please reach out. You can reach me at clint@joinlane.com or even find me on LinkedIn and send me a message.
Awesome. Well, look, Clint, it's been an absolute pleasure having on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you soon.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Propcast, and a big thanks to our special guests. Make sure you visit our website, www.nmre.co.uk, where you can subscribe to our show, or you'll find us on iTunes and Spotify, where all good content is found. Whilst you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate if you could rate and review us on iTunes, or if you simply just spread the word. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday, and I'll catch you later.
You're listening to a Podcast Company podcast. This was made by Podcast Syndicator, where we help you go from start to grow to making money with your podcast. Let us help you share your message and your voice with the world. Reach out now, Jason at podcastsyndicator.com or Brett at podcastsyndicator.com to find out more. Thank you for listening, and do come back to hear nothing but the best podcasts.